Imagine a world enveloped in stone and fear, where walls serve not just as boundaries but as prisons, trapping both life and hopelessness. Medieval sieges unfolded like strategic battles of chess, with bones and blood as the pieces. Supplies dwindled slowly, with no hint of salvation in sight. Time itself felt like a sharp executioner's blade. Sickness lurked in damp corners, while treachery festered like an open wound. Once bustling cities turned into desolate tombs, the air heavy with the scent of burning flesh and the bitter tang of fear. Cunning and cruelty blurred the line between sanity and madness. These are tales of extraordinary sieges, where survival demanded not just courage, but a touch of madness. Join me on a journey to a time when towering stone walls, though imposing, could shift from protective shields to impenetrable prisons. In the medieval era, siege warfare was a grim test of patience and resilience. Time became the ultimate foe, pushing inhabitants to their breaking points as walls transformed from fortifications to confinements, cutting them off from allies and escape. As provisions dwindled, hope gave way to despair, and once thriving markets lay deserted, a stark reminder of lost life. Each passing day brought residents closer to desperation, with rationing becoming a harsh reality where every scrap of food and sip of water was precious. Decision-makers faced agonizing choices as time wore on, wearing down spirits with its relentless march. As weeks turned into months, the promise of relief faded, leaving besieged individuals with waning optimism. Meanwhile, attackers wielded time as a silent weapon, applying pressure without a single clash of swords. Starvation loomed large, gnawing at the very essence of existence. The scarcity of food and water sparked conflicts over meager resources, with hunger not only a physical torment but an emotional one, eroding hope and fostering bitterness among the besieged. Disease thrived in cramped conditions, turning the besieged area into a breeding ground for illness. Sanitation issues exacerbated the situation, heightening the threat of pestilence. The once proud horses ended up on dinner tables, sacred relics were traded for necessities, and the inhabitants, once full of life, became mere shadows of their former selves. Amid the visible adversaries and the gnawing hunger, the invisible danger of disease lurked, turning every cough into a potential threat. Amidst sickness and filth, the stench of waste permeated the air, with piles of garbage accumulating in corners. Once vibrant community wells became sources of illness, leading to a desperate reliance on medieval medicine, a mix of superstition and guesswork. As funerals became more frequent, people turned to prayer for deliverance while facing betrayal within their own ranks. Hunger and fear turned allies into traitors, whispering false promises of escape that only led to capture. Trust was fragile, and suspicion could have unintended consequences, with spies and informants thriving in the chaos. Siege warfare brought terrifying displays of aggression as engineers developed machines to breach walls and spirits. The roar of catapults and the whistle of flaming arrows turned the skies into scenes of chaos. After the combat chaos subsided, the hope for mercy emerged, but surrender was a risky gamble with little chance of actual mercy. Surrender often resulted in brutal retribution, with tales of horrors becoming cautionary legends. Surrender became a heavy negotiation, trading autonomy for a slim chance at survival. The white truce banner rising signified the end of a chapter, a gesture of endurance rather than defeat. Despite the brutality, a siege's end showcased human resilience, weaving stories of courage and tenacity into history. Siege warfare, with its confining walls and shared suffering, was a testament to human endurance amidst brutality. Enigma was a chaotic symphony showcasing humanity's resilience in the face of darkness. Those who survived were enduring legacies of resilience, not just victors or vanquished. In the early 13th century, Rochester Castle, a mighty Norman fortress with unyielding defenses, stood strategically on the River Medway in Kent, a crucial gateway to London. The castle's towering stone walls and formidable keep played a pivotal role in King John's battle against rebellious barons during the First Barons' War of 1215. Control of Rochester meant controlling access to London, the kingdom's heart. Built with sturdy resilience, the castle symbolized an era's dream of impenetrable security, with its keep serving as both a residence and a last refuge in times of peril. King John, known for his heavy-handed rule and lackluster military exploits, faced a nation on the brink of civil war due to his disregard for the Magna Carta. Rochester Castle became a symbol of resistance, defended by William d'Aubigny, an ally to the rebellious barons. The fortress turned into a beacon of defiance against the tyrant king. John's forces sought to reclaim the stronghold, leading to one of medieval history's most infamous sieges that began in October 1215. Nobles from various regions sided with the rebellion, aiming to dethrone John and install Prince Louis of France as his successor. The siege saw a clash of strategies, from trebuchets hurling stones at the castle walls to underground tunneling attempts. King John's engineers worked tirelessly under the cover of night, digging tunnels under the stone walls supported by wooden beams destined to be set ablaze. Pigs were also used in a unique tactic, chosen for their fat as accelerants for fires beneath the castle walls. Despite its strangeness, such tactics were employed in the crucible of medieval warfare, where innovation was necessary for victory. As flames engulfed the castle's foundations and tremors shook its walls, a hellish scene unfolded in King John's pursuit of dominance during the siege. The defenders at Rochester faced a heavy onslaught from King John's forces. Hunger gnawed at their determination, while disease spread rapidly in their cramped quarters. Each passing day diminished their hope as they found themselves besieged not only by the enemy but also by the looming threats of starvation and illness. The siege tested their minds and bodies, with anxiety and despair pervading the air along with the chill of winter. Every rumble from below felt like a harbinger of doom, and each day without relief emphasized their growing isolation. The psychological toll of the siege became a battlefield of its own, as the relentless bombardment, crumbling defenses, and unmet reinforcements weighed heavily on the knights and soldiers within. Survival instincts clashed with notions of honor and duty, driving individuals into solitude as they struggled to endure. When the breach finally occurred, it was devastating and decisive. Flames had weakened the castle walls, leaving the defenders vulnerable. King John's forces seized the opportunity with swift brutality, pouring into the fortification and overwhelming the weary garrison. Surrender offered no respite, only subjugation or death, sealing King John's temporary return to power with a grim finality. The siege of Rochester remains a testament to tactical cunning and a dark chapter in King John's reign, where the line between madness and necessity blurred in the brutal realities of medieval warfare. While Rochester's fall briefly bolstered King John's authority, it was tainted by his ruthless methods and unyielding ambition, underscoring the ceaseless pursuit of dominion in that era. The First Crusade began in response to a divine call to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim rule. Pope Urban II's impassioned speech in 1095 inspired thousands to become pilgrims and warriors for this holy cause. Their journey was not just about reclaiming territory, but seeking salvation and eternal glory, enduring harsh trials of scorching deserts, treacherous mountains, and starvation that tested their spirits. Each hardship strengthened their resolve, turning them into symbols of faith and divine purpose, embarking on a quest draped in the promise of absolution. Carrying the cross on their shields and in their hearts, they became embodiments of unwavering devotion despite the grueling challenges they faced over 3 years. In June 1099, after a long journey, the worn survivors caught sight of the revered walls of Jerusalem. The city, significant to Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike, stood strong despite the marks of time and importance it held. To the Crusaders, this was not just a siege. It was a monumental battle between the divine and the earthly. Facing dwindling resources and desperate conditions, they struggled with limited supplies and thirst under the scorching sun. However, their determination blazed brightly, leading to innovative tactics born out of desperation. Massive siege engines were constructed and put into action with a sense of urgency from above. The atmosphere was filled with the sounds of war, clashing metal, catapults launching, and the cries mixing with the city's fate. Every passing day weakened them, but they tirelessly pressed on, breaching the city's defenses with unpredictable bravery, scaling walls and breaking down gates. Each successful breach was seen as a miraculous sign, engraving divine approval in their minds and in the stone of the city. On July 15, 1099, the Crusaders launched a final intense assault, resulting in chaotic and brutal scenes of violence. Jerusalem's streets were painted red with blood, depicting a horrifying image of human suffering. Chroniclers described the bloodshed as ankle-deep, narrating tales of fervor mixed with extreme brutality. Amidst the destruction, the Crusaders sought solace in their hollow victory at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, reflecting on the moral and physical wounds inflicted. They pondered whether such devastation truly reflected divine will. After the conquest, the victorious Crusaders faced the challenging task of establishing order in a land ravaged by their conquest. Jerusalem, a city both sacred and desecrated, stood as a symbol of the intricate relationship between faith and violence that shaped the Crusaders' actions. The newly established Crusader kingdom served as a stark reminder of the dual nature of war, both liberating and damning. Within this complex narrative of conquest and remorse, faith remained a guiding force. The siege revealed the inner conflicts of the Crusaders, where their religious convictions clashed with their unbridled zeal. They grappled with the belief that their actions were ordained by a higher power, while also recognizing their roles as both saviors and destroyers. Struggling with the ghosts of faith, they navigated a spiritual journey filled with moral dilemmas and self-awareness. During the siege of Jerusalem, the city became a crucible of suffering for its inhabitants. Muslims, Jews, and Eastern Christians joined forces in a desperate defense, testing their shared faith in the struggle for survival. Cut off from aid, they searched the sacred corridors for sustenance, with the city's walls shifting from sanctuary to a harsh curse. In this crucible, necessity forged fragile alliances and tales of endurance among the diverse groups. The Crusaders, in capturing Jerusalem, seized a precious gem cherished by the three Abrahamic faiths, turning the city into a bloody altar adorned with symbols of spiritual conflict. The subsequent crusades and ongoing conflicts left a dark legacy, casting long shadows and leaving lasting scars on the medieval world. The tale of Jerusalem serves as a prism through which to examine humanity's perpetual quest for meaning in chaos. While the Crusaders sought divine favor through force, the enduring lessons of their campaign prompt a re-evaluation of power, faith, and the delicate balance between belief and fanaticism. This historical echo reflects on the dangers of certainty, encouraging reconciliation where there once was strife and reminding us of our enduring internal battles. It's a conflict not just for land, but for the very soul itself. In the tumultuous mid-13th century, England teetered on the edge of unrest under King Henry III's troubled rule, marked by excesses and favoritism that alienated many of his barons. Dissatisfaction erupted into the Barons' War, led by the charismatic noble Simon de Montfort, whose death at the Battle of Evesham in 1265 left his loyalists seeking refuge in Kenilworth Castle in Warwickshire. The castle, with its imposing walls, intricate defenses, and Europe's widest moat, presented a formidable challenge to any would-be assailants. In 1266, Prince Edward gathered royal forces around Kenilworth, setting the stage for a clash of wills between sovereign power and noble defiance. Inside the castle, the garrison braced for the siege, facing dwindling supplies, illness from the stagnant moat, and the looming threat of attack. As the defenders struggled with rationed meals and waning strength, the royal army outside brought medieval warfare innovations such as trebuchets to break the castle's defenses. Catapults slung with ominous names, stones thudding against walls, and fire licking the sky orange posed a threat to defenders as siege towers inched closer. Clad in hides and wheels, these wooden behemoths served as a stark reminder that the enemy was slowly but surely advancing. Siege warfare was not a swift storm, but a persistent nightmare, with chaos outside and monotony within. Spies emerged with limited options above ground or through the sky, leading to the earnest digging beneath Kenilworth, a clandestine art known as sapping. Siege engineers tunneled underground to undermine the stone walls, engaging in a perilous subterranean duel with unseen opponents. Diplomatic efforts fluttered like tattered banners in uncertain winds, as envoys navigated treacherous negotiations with fleeting hopes dashed by mutual distrust. Peace seemed out of reach, as surrender was met with suspicion, and shadows of the past loomed over any attempts at resolution. As the siege dragged on from summer to autumn, the defenders faced harsh realities. empty granaries, scavenged sustenance, and the relentless toll of hunger and disease. Malnutrition, weakened bodies, and fear of betrayal crept into their thoughts, forewarning surrender with each cough and fevered groan. Eventually, in December, Kenilworth succumbed to its fate, surrendering with the promise of penance and penalties rather than annihilation. The castle, scarred by siege yet resilient, changed hands, but its walls, stained with valor, whispered tales of defiance and stubbornness. The toll of the siege was etched on bodies and spirits, a grueling testament to instinct and endurance for the besieged and a Pyrrhic victory for the victors. Kenilworth's legacy loomed large, exemplifying the grinding length and tenacity of medieval warfare, emphasizing the importance of prudence and reconciliation in resolving conflicts. Throughout its harrowing history, Kenilworth endures as more than a mere conquest. Its stone walls, once barriers, now serve as vessels of memory. Though the tumult of its time has faded, the narrative etched into its essence remains one of resistance against overwhelming odds, of resilience against the passage of time. A legend unfolds in the flickering light of the fire, resonating with the strength and perseverance of humankind. The Albigensian Crusade transcended being just a military campaign. It was a frenzy aimed at eradicating the Cathars, deemed heretics by the Church. Beziers became a focal point of this fervor, a vibrant city destined for destruction under the guise of divine purification. Amidst the tapestry of religious defiance in southern France, Beziers stood out as a bustling city full of life, yet overshadowed by the threat of annihilation. The papal decree acted as a war cry, rallying forces from across Europe to embark on a mission of salvation, shrouded in the armor of conquest. As religious fervor mingled with the whispers of impending doom, Beziers remained a symbol marked for eradication under the banner of the Crusaders. A gathering storm approached as diverse groups of Crusaders united, driven by zeal against Catharism. Knights and mercenaries joined together under the papal mandate, believing divine approval made them invincible. Inside the city walls, tension mounted as citizens swapped their usual routines for fortifying defenses, manned by under-equipped peasants and militia. Every gaze westward carried a heavy weight of dread, prayers for mercy punctuated by tolling church bells signaling doom drawing nearer. The Crusaders arrived at Beziers in July 1209, not only to besiege the city, but to unleash a ferocious storm fueled by their zeal. The defenders faced not just a physical assault, but a threat to their very existence and beliefs. Once lively streets now overflowed with terrified inhabitants, marketplaces filled with panicked chaos, and town squares echoed with screams, shaking the resolve of those trying to mount a defense. Conventional siege tactics gave way to chaos as Crusaders drowned the city in violence, driven by religious fervor. Catapults hurled destruction alongside stone, ladders climbed walls slick with blood, each weapon amplifying the destruction seeking to engulf Beziers completely. Amidst this chaos, a chilling command solidified the savagery of the siege. "Kill them all, God will know his own," attributed to papal legate Arnaud Amalric. These words obliterated any semblance of mercy, unleashing indiscriminate slaughter and turning the city into a crucible of horror. Zealous crusaders transformed into merciless executioners, blurring the lines between believer and heretic, soldier and civilian. Under the relentless blade of faith, the city's sanctuaries were rendered useless. Sacred altars were repurposed as execution grounds, where blood replaced the once sacred wine. Through the winding streets of Beziers, faith morphed into ferocity. Amidst the acrid stench of burning homes and the metallic tang of blood, the cries of the besieged people mingled with battle cries, painting a scene of faith turned deadly. Altars turned into crucibles in this tableau, with the divine twisted into a tool of despair as invaders prioritized annihilation over salvation. Beziers, once a beacon of prosperity and fervent belief, transformed into an inferno, its cobblestones awash in rivers of blood. Each drop told a tale of fanaticism blurring boundaries. As the brutal echo of steel faded and dawn revealed a city smothered in ashes, Beziers stood as a grim testament to Zeet's reach. Survivors faced haunting silence, their city now a symphony of loss. Their tales lingered as whispers beyond time's grasp, intertwined with the echoes of lives lived in the shadow of carnage. Beziers' torch-like obliteration illuminated southern France as both a cautionary tale and a terror, revealing faith guided by unchecked martial fervor. Though the Crusaders claimed victory, it felt hollow, echoed in haunted glances. Beziers persisted as more than a memory, its annihilation warning neighboring cities of untempered zeal. Here lies Beziers' profound irony. Through destruction, the Crusaders seemed to fulfill divine will, yet faith's triumph birthed tragic contradictions. It was a portrait of medieval triumph, marred by monstrous methodologies that sanctified the sword strike as the sanctified word. This chilling narrative remains entrenched in cultural memory, marking a pivotal moment where beliefs clashed with martial might. Remembering Beziers forces us to confront an epoch suspended between dedication and failure, where convictions clashed with consequences. Amidst the ruins, questions linger. Did conquest foster harmony or merely amplify dissonance? Beziers stands as a timeless reminder of faith's reckless pursuits, of righteous fervor twisted by zeal without understanding. Its story endures across centuries, challenging the very essence of salvation achieved through ruin. Beziers persists as a haunting reflection of medieval paradox, cautioning against hubris by peering into the shadows of fervent salvation. The siege of Antioch was a grim chapter in the First Crusade, unfolding in a world deeply divided by faith and ambition. In the late 11th century, Antioch stood as a formidable stronghold in the Levant, its towering walls reflecting Islamic power and intimidating even the most fervent crusaders. Driven by religious zeal and promises of absolution from the Pope, the Crusaders journeyed from Europe, determined to seize the city not just as conquerors, but as divine instruments tasked with reclaiming sacred territories. Antioch was not just a destination, it was a test of righteousness against the infidels. In October 1097, as the Crusaders faced the imposing walls and formidable defenses of Antioch, they were met with a citadel designed to withstand even the most determined attackers. The walls, stretching over 10 miles, were lined with towering towers and sturdy stone, signaling the city's strength as a powerful fortress. Inside, the defenders, made up of seasoned Saris soldiers and local residents, braced themselves for a prolonged resistance. Recognizing the futility of a swift victory, the Crusaders settled in for a siege as camps were set up around the city, enduring harsh weather and dwindling supplies through the winter months. Each passing day brought deeper starvation among the besieged Crusaders, as raids for supplies proved insufficient and the barren lands offered little sustenance. Desperation drove them to consume whatever meager provisions they could find, leading to a sense of despair that weakened their morale and unity. Struggling with hunger, the once united forces began to splinter as soldiers succumbed to deprivation. Hopes of relief armies faded, leaving them to face the harsh reality of famine. As supplies ran out, starvation forced grim choices, with whispers of cannibalism arising among the besieged. The taboo act, violating all notions of honor and ethics, became a haunting symbol of survival's relentless grip. Chroniclers from that time would later recount horrifying stories of individuals resorting to consuming human flesh in a desperate bid to stay alive. Each act of cannibalism was a stark admission of defeat, further weakening their already fragile unity. The siege was marked by this dark chapter, revealing the extremes of survival in the face of desperation. Amidst looming failure, an unexpected opportunity emerged through treachery within Antioch, allowing a small covert force to breach the city's defenses on June 2nd, 1098. This led to a frenzied assault by the Crusaders, who stormed the city in a chaotic and bloody conquest, meting out vengeance on its inhabitants. However, their victory was short-lived, as Kaboga of Mosul's relief army arrived, turning the tables on the Crusaders, who found themselves trapped within Antioch, with scarce supplies and impending disaster. Tensions rose within the city, on the brink of eruption amidst ongoing hunger and disease. In their desperation, whispered plans and schemes, the outbreak spread fear rapidly like wildfire. However, from the depths of despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. There were visions of divine intervention circulating, promising salvation through a miraculous relic. Peter Bartholomew, a modest priest who claimed to have received a vision from St. Andrew, played a crucial role in the discovery of a sacred relic known as the Holy Lance, which was believed to have pierced Christ's side. This discovery reinvigorated the Crusaders, serving as a symbol of divine favor in a time of uncertainty. Encouraged by the religious fervor it inspired, the weary warriors prepared for a final battle. On June 28, 1098, they charged out of Antioch to face Kaboga's formidable forces with a brave determination fueled by their unwavering faith. Despite facing overwhelming odds, they met the challenge not only with strength, but also with a valor that seemed to electrify the very air around them. Tales began to circulate of celestial beings joining their ranks, mystical symbols of divine assistance blessing their struggle. Whether it was through divine intervention or newfound zeal, the Crusaders pushed back Koga's army, breaking the siege lines and reclaiming Antioch. As victory settled upon the exhausted warriors, the harsh reality set in. A costly victory had been achieved in a land ravaged by conflict. Antioch bore the scars, a city depleted of resources, haunted by the remnants of suffering endured in the name of faith. Disease and hunger lingered, casting persistent shadows even in the moment of triumph. Those who remained standing carried the indelible marks of survival etched into their souls, embodying both the glory and the agony of the crusade. The siege of Antioch left its mark on history, a testament to the complexities of human warfare, the aspirations, the horrors, and the convictions that characterized a time both brutal and sacred. If this intriguing chapter of medieval history has piqued your interest, please remember to give the video a thumbs up. To explore more stories from the darker corners of history, subscribe to Medieval Grime. We present our history with a unique flavor, smalted and a hint of cheekiness. Stay gritty, and we'll see you next time by the fire. In the year 1147, Lisbon became the focal point of an ambitious crusade where spiritual redemption intertwined with earthly ambitions. As part of the Second Crusade, fighters gathered in the city, drawn by stories of reclaiming holy lands. Beneath the veneer of religious fervor, however, lay deeper motivations. The rulers, including Count Alfonso Henriques and the influential Bishop of Porto, led a multinational force not only to free Lisbon from Moorish rule, but also to seize the rumored treasures hidden within its walls. Ships from northern Europe arrived, carrying warriors eager to partake in this curious blend of devotion and greed. Lisbon stood resolute along the Tagus River, its formidable walls standing as a symbol of resistance. Behind these defenses, a mix of seasoned Muslim Moors and local mercenaries held their ground, utilizing their knowledge of the terrain to defend the city. Advantage. The Christian forces, a diverse army comprised of soldiers from various nationalities, not only faced physical obstacles, but also the formidable expertise of the defenders protecting their home. In addition to using swords, the Moors utilized strategic sorties and hidden paths to maintain supply lines and communication, prolonging the siege into a grueling test of endurance. The siege commenced with blockades as the attackers aimed to starve the city into submission. Siege engines creaked and rumbled, hurling stones that pounded against the city's sturdy defenses. Incendiary arrows and basic gunpowder weapons added an explosive element to the relentless assault. As days turned into months, frustrations mounted within the Crusader ranks. Morale plummeted due to the prolonged waiting, failed attacks, and rumors of treachery circulating among the troops. Reports of some Crusaders betraying their own by providing information to the defenders fueled paranoia within the ranks. As the siege dragged on, internal tensions among the crusading forces simmered, jeopardizing the already fragile alliances. Various factions, burdened by homesickness and grievances, began to question their leaders' decisions. Unity became as crucial as breaching the city's defenses, with some soldiers contemplating abandoning the siege altogether. Leaders, aware of the delicate situation, dangled renewed promises of rewards to maintain cohesion among the troops. Eventually, after relentless efforts, a breach appeared in the city's defenses, providing an opening for the Crusaders' fury and determination. The scent of sulfur and smoke filled the air as explosions rocked Lisbon's walls, marking the beginning of the end. The city's once formidable defenses now lay exposed as determined Crusaders poured through the breach, their shouts a mix of desperation and triumph. Chaos ensued as invaders clashed with beleaguered defenders in fierce hand-to-hand combat, a battle not only of metal but of human wills. The fall of Lisbon triggered a wave of looting and destruction, unleashing the darkest impulses of the victors. The promises of spiritual redemption and wealth materialized in a grim manner as buildings were plundered and homes were ransacked. Uncontrolled violence blurred any sense of righteousness, with fires erupting amidst the mayhem. Lisbon, once a proud city, now lay in ruins under clouds of smoke and despair. For the inhabitants, this was more than just a conquest. It was a descent into lawlessness and terror. However, victory came at a steep cost. The toll of loss extended beyond the battlefield, with civilians bearing the brunt of the devastation in Lisbon streets, now filled with suffering and wreckage. The triumphant cry of conquest was muffled by the grim aftermath, as the Crusaders' victory was overshadowed by moral failure. Their chaotic pursuit of vengeance laid bare the destructive duality of human ambition, where noble aims are marred by plundering instincts. As leaders and chroniclers sought to frame the narrative, the true legacy of the Siege of Lisbon would forever be etched in the annals of history. The portrayal of conquest as a divine victory glossed over the harsh realities in their narratives. They justified the violent takeover by attributing it to destiny and the will of higher powers, obscuring the bloody aftermath. This was an attempt to reconcile faith with the complexities of human actions. These narratives served not only to rationalize, but also to conceal the brutal truths of conquest. In the aftermath, Lisbon faced the difficult task of rebuilding. Emerging from the ruins, the city began to redefine its identity, confronting the scars left by the siege. Reconstruction was not just a physical undertaking, but also a process of coming to terms with its past under new rulers. As Christian leaders worked to transform the landscape to reflect their aspirations, a new Lisbon gradually emerged, showcasing resilience in times of turmoil. The Siege of Lisbon serves as a historical lesson, illustrating the dual nature of war, where ideals clash with the harsh realities of survival. This story, filled with both nobility and brutality, prompts modern audiences to contemplate the enduring complexities of conflict. The lessons engraved in Lisbon stones highlight the resilience of civilization, resonating through history as a testament to humanity's simultaneous capacity for faith and folly. In the late 12th century, the Third Crusade was sparked by desperation, an attempt by European powers to recapture the Holy Land following Saladin's conquest of Jerusalem in 1187. Acre, a crucial port city in the Levant with formidable defenses, became the focal point of this high-stakes conflict, where religious zeal clashed with the brutal realities of medieval warfare. In 1189, soldiers from across Christendom gathered around the towering stone walls of Acre, establishing a makeshift encampment and commencing an epic standoff. These soldiers, united under banners adorned with red crosses, responded to papal calls, promises of salvation, and the allure of fame and riches. Their eagerness was tempered by fear as they confronted Saladin's formidable forces. Leaders like King Richard the Lionheart of England and King Philip II of France, driven by a mix of ego, ambition, and divine purpose, set the stage for a siege unlike any other. The initial attempts to breach Acre were met with fierce resistance, with defenders raining arrows down from the walls and mounted knights launching daring attacks that tested the besiegers' resolve. The Crusaders soon realized that this was not just a test of military strength, but a battle of endurance. They resorted to resourcefulness, constructing siege engines and fortifications in a bid to breach the walls. As supplies dwindled and disease took its toll, the struggle became a fight for survival against starvation, illness, and enemy blades. Both inside the besieged city and outside its formidable walls, the conflict escalated into a grueling test of will and resilience. Within the walls, life had deteriorated into a nightmare. Desperation and scarcity led to grim scavenging missions, while malnutrition and sickness weakened both bodies and spirits. The acrid smoke from funeral pyres became a constant presence, signaling the relentless spread of death and decay. Despite these bleak conditions, stories of resilience emerged, painting a stark contrast to the desperation, the indomitable human spirit burning against a hellish backdrop. Saladin, a skillful tactician, recognized the importance of turning Acre into an insurmountable fortress to wear down his enemies. By launching counter-sieges and disrupting Crusader supply lines, he cleverly transformed the siege into a battle of attrition. His strategy exploited rivalries and ambitions within the Crusader ranks, heightening tensions among their leaders. Nevertheless, determined to persevere, the Crusaders united around their shared cause, their resolve strengthened by religious conviction. This strategic contest between adversaries dragged on for months and then years, marked by fleeting victories and harsh realities. The arrival of fresh forces in 1191 proved to be a turning point for the Christian armies. King Richard the Lionheart and King Philip II of France injected renewed energy and leadership, revitalizing the exhausted troops. Richard's reputation for boldness and strategic prowess motivated his forces, leading to daring operations deep into enemy territory. The influx of vigor shifted the momentum, and with newfound resolve and fresh supplies, the besiegers pushed forward, echoing their rallying cries across the blood-stained landscape. As the siege persisted, both sides sensed the balance tipping. Saladin and his soldiers faced diminishing resources and morale, while the Crusaders, reinforced by new arrivals, intensified their assaults with renewed tenacity. After nearly 2 years of siege, in July 1191, Acre fell to the Crusaders. Their forces poured through breached walls, overwhelming defenders in chaotic scenes filled with cries of victory and rampant plundering. However, this moment of triumph was overshadowed by the staggering costs paid along the way. Disease, exhaustion, and a heavy loss of life had left the victorious army in a precarious state. The city, captured and scarred by relentless conflict, represented a conquest that had nearly undone both attacker and defender. The repercussions of Acre's fall extended far beyond its battered walls, solidifying the Crusader presence in the Holy Land. Yet the toll was profound, reverberating through homesick letters, chroniclers' tales, and the whispered memories of survivors. Acre became a symbol of the brutal price of war, intertwining heroism and despair, honor, faith, and power. The toll on humanity from continuous suffering was immense. The siege had a profound impact on medieval society, serving as a stark reminder of the dual nature of war, both a symbol of ambition and folly. It gave rise to legendary figures like Richard the Lionheart, known for his charisma and strategic prowess, whose actions inspired and shocked people. Alongside renowned figures, unsung heroes emerged as well, ordinary individuals displaying remarkable courage and innovation, leaving their mark on the era. As time passed, the bravery, sacrifice, and relentless struggle of those at Acre became woven into the fabric of history, resonating through generations and highlighting the enduring complexities of conflict. Acre remained a significant part of the Crusades' narrative, showcasing human resilience and the lasting impact of war. The Siege of Orleans, beyond being a battle for a city, marked a pivotal moment in the Hundred Years' War between England and France from 1337 to 1453. By the late 1420s, English dominance in northern France made capturing Orleans vital, as its strategic location on the Lire River was crucial for defending southern France. The city represented French national pride and cultural identity, and its fall could have opened the door to an English invasion, threatening French sovereignty. Inside the city walls, as the English siege intensified, supplies dwindled and morale waned. Amidst the looming sense of despair, a glimmer of hope emerged in prophecies foretelling a maiden destined to save France. Joan of Arc, a peasant girl from Domremy, heeded divine voices guiding her to lead France to victory. Despite initial skepticism, her unwavering conviction and simplicity resonated with Charles II, who eventually supported her cause. Clad in armor and radiating determination, Joan's presence ignited a sense of hope and purpose among the beleaguered French populace. Joan's leadership not only boosted morale, but also influenced military strategies, advocating bold, direct assaults that revitalized the French offensive. Her arrival marked a turning point in the siege, with her magnetic presence inspiring soldiers and citizens alike. Joan embodied hope and divine favor, transcending her young age to become a symbol of courage and determination during a tumultuous time in history. Fresh resilience and a shift in strategy were forced upon the English by Joan's entrance onto the battlefield. Myths trailed her like shadows, with tales of divine occurrences accompanying her every action, reinforcing the belief in her favor from God. During a crucial battle, an arrow struck her shoulder, yet she refused to retreat, displaying courage that inspired her troops to match her newfound determination. Her unwavering resolve transformed fragile hope into decisive action, breaking down the psychological barriers that once seemed insurmountable. The garrison was galvanized, reclaiming vital positions and dispelling the illusion of English invincibility. The tide began to turn, with Joan evolving from a mythical figure to an undeniable force shaping France's fate. Joan played a pivotal role in the liberation of Orleans, leading daring offensives against English strongholds with strategic brilliance and unwavering confidence. Her most notable achievement was the capture of Jargeau, a fortress previously thought impregnable by the English. This victory was a significant blow to English aspirations in the region, not only strategically, but also symbolically for the French. The liberation of Orleans brought great joy to France, marking a profound shift in the nation's spirit. Yearning for redemption. Beyond the battlefield, Joan's triumphs revitalized French morale and national pride, sparking a wave of resistance and unity. She shattered the myth of English dominance, reshaping the narrative towards one of hopeful resurgence. Joan's divine mission united diverse factions into a cohesive French front, inspiring nobles and commoners alike. Her legacy revitalized military campaigns, ultimately leading to French triumph despite her lack of formal military training. Her presence redefined the course of warfare, driving victories through inspiration and unwavering belief. However, Joan's extraordinary journey took a dark turn in 1430 when she was captured by Burgundian allies and handed over to the English. Her trial, marked by political vendettas disguised as ecclesiastical scrutiny, stands as a grave injustice in history. Branded a heretic and witch for following her divine visions and wearing men's attire, Joan faced relentless interrogation aimed at discrediting her symbolic power. Despite facing intense pressure to renounce her beliefs, she steadfastly held on to her convictions, leading to her martyrdom on May 30th, 1431, intended to quash her influence. Instead, her death amplified her legacy, rallying the French resistance and solidifying her status as a symbol of justice and courage. Posthumously rehabilitated in 1456 after a retrial declared her innocence, Joan's reputation continued to grow over time. Canonized in 1920, she became a symbol of faith, admired for her unyielding conviction and bravery. Joan of Arc's legacy endures as a beacon of inspiration and courage for generations to come. The narrative has evolved over time in popular culture, transitioning from plays to films that emphasize themes of heroism and the struggle against tyranny. Her story serves as a vibrant testament to resilience and a lasting legacy, echoing from the walls of castles to the hearts of many. She has become a symbol of hope and defiance, immortalized across generations. In the tense calm before a medieval siege, the townspeople, sheltered behind towering stone walls, understood that their most powerful weapon was not made of steel, but of sheer mental resilience. The fortifications that once symbolized safety now felt like cages, slowly turning their city into a pressure cooker of stress and paranoia. Even before the enemy's arrows were launched, psychological warfare had already begun. Each passing day brought more suspicion into the hearts of men, women, and children, turning neighbors against each other in a fight for survival. Trust became a rare commodity as fear whispered of potential betrayal, whether from a guard asleep at their post, a spy among them, or a secret alliance forged in the darkness of night. The siege's mental toll often outweighed its physical impact as the besieged grappled with the doubts bred by isolation and the looming threat of attack. Surrounded by hostile forces, the oppressive sense of doom hung over their walled city like a specter. Time became their enemy, wearing down their resolve under the weight of unending pressure. Anxiety spread like a disease, fueled by the constant sounds of the walls creaking and the distant clanging of metal, sending shivers down their spines. Survival became a test of mental endurance, where even the most rational individuals felt the allure of madness brought on by relentless uncertainty and despair. Leadership during a siege could make the difference between endurance and collapse. City leaders carried heavy burdens, serving as beacons of hope in seemingly hopeless times. They often resorted to unconventional methods to boost public morale, managing scarce resources and delivering speeches to reignite the flames of resistance in weary hearts. Preserving the collective mindset of the people was as crucial as fortifying the city's defenses. Maintaining calm was a powerful tool. Yet under siege, leadership sometimes leaned towards authoritarianism. Desperate measures taken under duress, like public executions or harsh punishments, painted a grim picture of communal life. Leaders had to navigate between enforcing discipline and preventing chaos, blurring the line between wise commander and tyrant in their efforts to avert panic and maintain order. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, starvation emerged as a formidable adversary. Food supplies diminished, and the harsh reality of hunger gnawed at both body and spirit. Rats became a precious source of sustenance, and even boots were boiled for meager nourishment. Hunger bred madness, distorting decision-making and driving individuals to desperate acts. Once civilized townspeople faced the horrific reality of choosing between atrocity and survival. The task of deciding who would eat and who would starve was a heavy burden that tore families and friendships apart. Starvation did not just weaken bodies, it also corroded minds, distorted judgments, and pushed moral boundaries to their limits. Actions that would be unthinkable in peacetime became grim necessities. The unpleasant smell of malnutrition hung in the air, clouding thoughts and fueling hostility. Surrender seemed like a form of salvation in such dire circumstances, leading many to betray their comrades in the hope of a phantom reprieve. Hunger showed no loyalty, pitting brother against brother and soldier against commander in the fight for survival. Disease came alongside starvation, acting as a deadly ally to the besieged. Thriving in the poor hygiene and overcrowding within city walls, diseases spread rapidly, claiming more lives than enemy swords. Soldiers and civilians alike fell prey to unseen pathogens, and a sense of madness took hold. Each cough was feared as a bad omen, and every rash was seen as a sign of doom, turning collective helplessness into anxiety and hysteria. Disease spared no one, affecting both nobles and peasants alike. Healers, overwhelmed and lacking remedies, resorted to desperate attempts to ease suffering, often deepening despair through futile efforts. Amidst the cycle of disease, death, and delusion, the besieged shared a common madness, transcending social divides as they awaited their fate in their besieged city. In a time where omens influenced decisions, superstitions provided solace for the suffering population. Siege-induced hardships led to desperate searches for meaning, turning people into fervent believers in divine intervention or celestial salvation. Omens were analyzed, prophecies circulated through the streets, and priests gained newfound influence by offering blessings or casting spells to boost morale. However, these superstitions also caused rifts, as zeal clashed with skepticism and old societal divisions resurfaced, fueling debates over whether their plight was a divine test or punishment for sins. As the siege dragged on, suspicion grew, eroding the bonds that once held the community together. Rumors of treachery and secret dealings with the enemy spread, leading to a breakdown of unity. Acts of treason, whether real or perceived, resulted in severe consequences, public trials and executions of alleged spies becoming a grim spectacle. Leaders had to delicately navigate this atmosphere of paranoia as trust waned, casting a shadow of threat over the besieged. It was a madness born out of the struggle for survival. In the face of this turmoil, the besieged displayed an incredible willpower to endure against all odds, defying cruel fate with their unwavering spirit and courage. They turned madness into a companion. Despite facing numerous obstacles along the way, they displayed remarkable resilience. Even when all they had left were visions of hope, the unyielding human spirit, resilient and persistent, served as a testament to those who navigate the edge of sanity. They survived to share stories of using madness as a valuable ally in the challenging journey of survival.